I'm Eric, here with my friend Joe.
Hi.
We're gonna play some Resident Evil tonight. This is night. I don't even know what is this. I guess it's night 10 since it's October 10th.
It's October 10th. This is really easy because it's
It's
going to be the
just
date.
literally the date. Okay, well, I'll try and keep on top of what date it is. Ah! Oh, okay.
I really wish they'd have stuck with that actor for Chris Redfield just forever.
And then when they wanted to make Resident Evil 5, they could have made him take a bunch of roids.
Yeah.
So that way he could
Yeah.
have been beefed up to match the in-game character models. I'd be into that. I think I might accidentally have two instances of this game running in the emulator. Yeah, I do. Hang on, let me close one of these.
Whoops.
I was looking at the eye and wondering why there was screaming happening, and that's why. Be smart. Fighting foes isn't the only way to survive. Yeah, I totally lost track of what I was talking about. Okay, so this is the original Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1, the PSX.
The long box.
Yeah, this is
version.
the long box version. There's no auto aim. It has the good music. No dual shock support.
Well, the first director's cut has the good music too. It's only the DualShock
It's the
director's cut, the
DualShock
greatest
one.
hits version. Yeah, that one has the hot shit garbage
Yeah.
soundtrack by the quote air quotes deaf air quotes composer, who, if memory serves, turned out to be neither deaf nor a composer.
Fair enough. So yeah, we're gonna give this a shot. I'm playing this on an emulator. I'm playing on an EPSXE, as you can see, because of the super high resolution sprites, or not sprites, character models. As far as I've seen, this game runs about as well as you can expect. So hopefully we don't get anything too weird.
Yes, .ex or whatever, however it's said.
EPSXE.
Yeah,
It's
sure, that
so
one.
EPSXE. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty good emulator as far as PlayStation emulators that I'm aware of. Like it's up there towards the top.
It's very
Maybe it's
good.
not Bleem.
It's true. It's not
Dreamcast
Bleem.
or
That is
anything.
a fact.
Alpha team is flying around the forest situated in northwest Rapids.
Yeah, in my experience with it, it's
Searching for the
been
helicopter of our
really awesome. Actually, it runs most games like as well as you remember. I mean, the biggest problem is that a lot of PlayStation games have pre-rendered backgrounds that just look weird at high resolutions. So
That's true.
you're trapped either looking at something that's extremely blurry or looking at super crisp, weird, wiggly polygonal models over super blurry, jaggy, highly compressed pre-rendered backgrounds. And I personally I like the super high, super crisp, high res character models, and I don't care how awkward and weird that looks, because these games looked awkward and weird at the time in a lot of cases.
They did, yeah. They had a bit of that
was Bravo team's helicopter.
awkward and weird,
And I really
jaggy
like,
marionette show.
yeah, the weird moving bits and pieces of the textures and the polygons just kind of makes me a little horny, honestly. I love the way it looks. It's so fucked up and weird.
For me, it largely depends on the game.
Yeah.
Some PlayStation games have aged fairly well. Some are just like I don't even know
true.
what's happening in some PlayStation
Yeah.
games.
I mean, like Metal
This
Gear
is,
Solid looks fucking awesome in an emulator.
Yeah, it does. False Logic is here. He says it's me.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Um,
That's a
this
really
was
good.
at the
This is a good fucking puppet of this dog at the beginning of this. I
dog
love
puppet? Yeah.
love this live action intro.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this is sort of the end of the FMV craze. I mean, there were still like live action, and when I say FMV, I mean like actors in like poorly produced movies. False Logic says, "Love those canned roars from the dog." I assume, yeah. Yeah, this was sort of the end of that. Let's actually shoot actors and put them in our video game to tell the story stuff. There was not a ton of that on the PlayStation and the Saturn.
Chris Redfield.
Yeah. I love Jill's costume where like her shoulder pads are clearly just like foam rubber. Like, I mean, it's just
Barry's vest is really good too.
yeah. Barry himself is really good. Wesker is when we get introduced to the team and Wesker like pushes his hands through his hair. Like, here we go. Yeah, False Logic says her pants are so big. She has some 90s fat pants.
Very baggy, and also the waist is just like just below her boob line. It's great. Great pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wesker doesn't have
90s
time for your
women's
shit.
fashion and like the old man pants somehow converged in the mid 90s, and it was glorious.
Wesker just looks. He just is not. He's got all the 90s attitude this game needs.
And he continued to have it through the rest of the series, and it became
that's
more
true.
and more gloriously awkward and awful.
Yeah.
What is it?
But he did. I apologize for that.
Oh no, the dogs are coming for us. Joe, run for that house. Well, that CGI helicopter flies away.
I wish there was a 6-pound white zombie dog in this game that would just like arf at you as it ran after you. And
Stay alert.
False Logic was late to this stream and asks, "Is this emulation?" Yes, this is emulation. This is EPSXE. Yeah. Don't open that door. Yeah, this is the Wesker's voice actors later. All the voice actors later got a lot better, but Wesker's got this really great, this really great vocal quality that none of the. Here's a weird thing. Did you know that Chris Redfield is currently being portrayed by 2 different voice actors?
Sure, why not?
Like, the guy who plays him in Resident Evil 7 is a different guy than the one who plays him in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite guy is like the Resident Evil 5 guy and the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 guy, but they got like a new different guy for Resident Evil 7 for some reason.
Okay.
False Logic says, put a filter on this shit, my eyes hurt. And again, late to the party, Eric already explained that he actually really likes the way that these character models look against the background. So
Sharper the better. Yeah, I want it to be able to cut into the back of your retinas.
I feel like the DS version put some kind of filter on the player's character, not the player characters, but any of the
it
polygon
actually,
model.
So I streamed, or you were there, I think, when I streamed Resident Evil 2, and I streamed the GameCube version of it, and like that game just looks a lot better because the backgrounds are a little, I don't know if they're higher resolution, but they're definitely cleaner. But that game just draws better polygons. Like, it's just, they're consistent, and the textures aren't like wiggling around all the time. So it's just, this is what these games always looked like. It's just, you didn't notice it because you had a crappy TV and a composite cable and everything.
Right.
Very
Well, also the higher resolution.
I hope this isn't Chris's blood.
The up-resing that this emulator is doing makes the character models look a lot more crisp than they look at 240.
Yes. All right, well, let's go check out this hallway. I'm sure there's nothing bad or evil in this residence.
No, I'm sure there's not. So last time I played this version of Resident Evil was when I made a video. The first same name, different game Halloween special that I ever did was on this game. And I have not gone back to the long box, and I hadn't played the long box version since it like came out prior to that.
This face that Jill is making right now is very sad, and then you can turn her and she's like a Picasso painting. It's really good.
Cubist Stars agent.
Yeah. Oh, what could be down here at the end of this hallway?
But this version.
Oh no!
This version of this game is really hard. like this is one of those they jacked it up for Americans for some unknown reason. Games and it's like the Japanese version had auto aim, and all this stuff came back in the director's cut. But like it had the aim where you locked onto the nearest thing if you put up your gun.
Barry?
This game doesn't have that. I think it has less ammo as well. Like this game is
Look out!
tough.
It's a monster.
False Logic says I never beat RE1, only ever beat RE2 and RE3, and RE4, but that was this year.
Kenneth was killed too.
Yeah,
fair.
RE1's hard. It's one of the hard. It's probably, and actually I've never beaten RE3, which is every time I say that it feels weird because I really like the Resident Evil series, but
You never even really played much of it, right?
no, I really haven't played 3 at all.
You know
I
anything
played
about
Code
Carlos?
Veronica. I went from 2 to Code Veronica, and never really came back to 3 for whatever reason.
I like 3.
But I have it.
back in the day.
I have it on Dreamcast and on PlayStation. But I've
What's
not
up,
actually
Barry? I'm
played
dominating Barry.
it.
What do you want, Barry? You intimidated? That's right. Get in the corner. All right. I guess I should go look. I think what's the name? I forget what the name of the dude is that the zombie was eating. Is that Forrest?
No, Forrest is the one on the balcony who had had his face pecked off. Wow, I didn't even realize you could move Barry by doing that.
I've got to report this to Wesker. Oh right, but I don't think he's already gone.
He is already gone, but you don't know that yet. You should have played the Game Boy Color version of this.
I think that there is like a whatever bits and pieces of that are available to be like
Help me
fucked
look
with.
for
Yeah, no, the ROM was
Don't
dumped.
leave this hall for the time being.
I have not actually played it because I can't. Like I know I get a sense for how that turned out. Well, you just played Alone in the Dark New
I
Nightmare
did.
on Game Boy Color
Real
last
bad.
week, so I suspect that Resident Evil on the Game Boy Color is, fairly similar.
Anything back here? No.
I like that the cover art to Resident Evil has 2 giant spiders on it, but like as if the giant spiders are this
What is this all about?
super
Hey, there's giant spiders in this game.
frequent and dominant theme in this game.
I like just the weird deranged person with the shotgun. I guess is that supposed to be like Chris?
Can't be helped.
And it's supposed to be Chris, I guess, but I don't know. And I think that's not.
It
That
looks
is
more like
not
Resident
the-
Evil 5 Chris.
Yeah, right. That's where they got the inspiration. And I'm fairly certain.
This
I'm
mansion
double
is
checking
gigantic.
myself.
We should start
Now,
on the first floor, okay?
Hang on.
And Jill,
What?
here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
The greatest line read in the history of video
Thanks.
games.
Maybe I'll need it.
Perhaps you, the master of unlocking.
Take it with you. I'm hoping. I think I can get to the "you were almost a Jill sandwich" here in a timely
If
fashion.
something happens,
That's my
perhaps.
goal.
I
this hall.
suspect so. Yeah, so the Japanese box art for Resident Evil is an eyeball. It's just an eyeball with blood dripping into it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't understand
It's a
why we
screenshot
got.
from a Lucio Fulci movie.
Yeah, kind of. And we got freaky steroid amped Chris.
Doom guy.
Yeah, kind of. But
Doom
he's
guy
not
Chris.
really. You know.
You know what's a really good
Um,
thing that happened in these games later on is that you could just walk up and down the stairs.
Yeah. Yep. That didn't happen for a while, though.
Resident Evil 3 had
But,
some stairs that you could walk up and down.
Yeah, that's true. The Resident Evil 2 box art in both the US and abroad is pretty good, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Resident Evil 2 box art is fantastic. I should probably... it's a zombie. I don't really remember where to go first. It's been a really long time since I played this game.
False Logic says, I think there's a Port Center episode on the Game Boy Color version. I believe you're right. I believe good old Ben Padden did an episode of that. That's a good show, by the way, if you've never watched Port Center on YouTube. It's good stuff.
Why can't I equip my gun?
He says, "Why wouldn't you use the biohazard sign for the biohazard game?" Because that's too cliched, I guess.
Is there a reason why I can't equip my gun? I should be able to, right?
Yeah, I can't see why you wouldn't be able to. What happens when...
If I hit X, it just takes me out of the menu.
Oh, is it circle?
I don't know, none of these buttons are doing anything. Do I need to reconfigure my controller?
You might. He says, I would have figured the emulator would speed up the loading scenes. Well, it probably speeds up the loading, but since the screen plays out as the whole door opening animation, no matter how long it takes to load, it's going to take as long as it would, because it's doing that animation to cover the loading. That screen is not in reaction to the loading. It's just to cover the loading.
Well, no, X is doing the things it should be doing. I don't know. I can't reconfigure the controller while it's running, apparently, either.
Make a save state and back out of it. The simulator does save states, right?
I think so. Like brought up another window when I did that. Let me just go. I'll go down. Oh, I don't think I have any ink ribbons yet.
There should be one on the table next to the stairs.
With the typewriter.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's been a really long time since I played this game. I remember.
I mean, at this point, there's not
from Blockbuster, like in 90. I'm trying to.
96.
Would have been no. Well, I didn't get a PlayStation until Christmas '97 because that was when Final Fantasy came out. So it would have been just before Resident Evil 2 came out, I think, because I was like pretty interested in that game and wanted to play this. So that would have been the original version of this. You can save your progress with this.
I've told this story before, but this was my first PlayStation game. In fact, I was like heavily on the hype train.
This is a PlayStation-ass PlayStation game.
It is, and I got a PlayStation, and this game wasn't out yet, but I really wanted it. So my parents were like, "Well, you can get a game with this game system that we're buying you and your sister." And my sister was like super into Twisted Metal at the time. In fact, I think my sister was like at her peak interest in video games was the PlayStation era. She was super into Twisted Metal, and so she got Twisted Metal, and I was like, I'm gonna chill, like I'm gonna wait until Resident Evil comes out. And then the day Resident Evil came out, I like went to my local Babbage's, if you remember that, and got my copy of Resident Evil. So yeah, I played this game the day it came out. False Logic says mine. I assume he means my first PlayStation game was Final Fantasy VII. Obviously not my first because I got mine in my PlayStation in '96, but I did also go to my local Babbage's and wait in line on launch day to get my copy of Final Fantasy VII. So
I think we should be good now. Yeah,
you've pulled back the curtain. I can see more of you.
Ah!
You hide part of yourself behind the game.
It's gone now. Hopefully.
Says he fell for that hype train. Dude, everybody was on the Final Fantasy VII hype train.
That game was really amazing in 1997.
Yeah, it was really good in 1997. I mean, also I hadn't played Chrono Trigger yet, I guess, so I didn't know better.
I had, but I still really liked it. Oh. Press any button. Load game. There we go. Now my square button's working right.
Final Fantasy VII, though, yeah, I mean, we've said many times before, but it's not aged well, in my opinion. Actually, a lot of people are not happy about the prospect of this remake, which seems like it kind of plays more like Final Fantasy XII-ish, like more active, real-time, because they don't want it to be different, but I think that the original Final Fantasy VII kind of sucks, so I do want it to be different. And play more like a modern Final Fantasy game.
Well, apparently my game didn't save properly, so...
He says the last JRPG I played before Final Fantasy VII was missed the entire 16-bit JRPG scene. Mystic Quest, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, aka Final Fantasy USA, as it was known in Japan. Yeah, see, this is always weird to me because people always talk about like, oh, RPGs weren't popular in the West until Final Fantasy VII, and like maybe my friends and I were just like extra huge dorks, but like we played the original Final Fantasy when it was new, the Dragon Warrior games when they were new, and all the Final Fantasy 2, 3. I don't remember why I didn't play Chrono Trigger, but you know, I played a lot of those JRPGs then, and it's weird to me when people are like, you know, oh, nobody cared about RPGs until Final Fantasy VII.
I mean,
like,
I think that
everybody I knew cared about RPGs.
A pretty big difference in like, I want to say, I forget what it was, but like Final Fantasy VII sold like several times the amount of copies that like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI sold.
Sure, but the PlayStation
so
also
it's like
sold way fucking more systems than the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, but not by 1997 it hadn't. Like Final Fantasy VII was one of the things that sold PlayStations. Which was definitely a huge shift in JRPGs. JRPGs were kind of like a niche thing that people who were way into video games played.
But was it because it was a JRPG or because they put a fucking trailer in movie theaters before movies?
Right. That's what I. But I mean, that's
like,
it. That marketing campaign and the look of the game and that shot of Sephiroth standing in the fire and all that shit was. Like,
and the city,
like
the
that made people care about that game before they knew what it was, and that game sold a shitload of copies. I think it's still like the highest selling Final Fantasy game.
Okay, let me
probably. Wouldn't surprise me. But you know, I mean, again, I think video games.
People were tricked into caring about JRPGs. When Final Fantasy VII came out.
Well, I've said this before, but I mean, the PlayStation era is where video games went from a niche hobby that weird nerds were into to like a mainstream thing. And it's not just JRPGs, it's just like now video games are a thing.
Right.
You know, like the PlayStation sold more units than the Super Nintendo and the Genesis combined.
What is it?
You know, so it was just.
Although I still think like most of the other JRPGs from even like that era, like Suikoden and Wild Arms and stuff like that, were still pretty.
Hope this is not Chris's blood.
They weren't selling as many copies as Final Fantasy VII was.
Yeah, no, nobody was buying Wild Arms in droves.
Right.
I will say, a lot of people bought Legend of Dragoon because I worked in a used game store in college, and we always had like 10 fucking copies of it on the shelf. So
that was like a
lot of people bought it and sold it back.
Thing, right? There's a green label version of that game, isn't there?
I believe there is.
I don't know. That game.
I own it. I don't think I ever played. I never even played it. I have it. How did it sell so many copies? Like, who the fuck was buying Legend of Dragoon?
I don't know if you remember the internet, like in '99, 2000, but like there were people that
I try not to
angrily and loudly defended that game from
Barry?
any kind of criticism as well. But
What is it?
I don't remember that.
Watch out! It's a
it was not a good. It was not a good game. I don't even remember why I disliked it so much, but.
False Logic says that's the game that killed JRPGs. It was marketed as the successor to Final Fantasy VII.
It was.
I mean, wasn't every RPG marketed as
Was
the
a-
successor to Final Fantasy VII?
I mean, kind of.
Mr. Wesker.
I don't know. I feel like Final Fantasy VII was the beginning of the end because, like I said, a lot of people bought that game not realizing what it was. And then there's a reason why that's the high watermark for sales in the series is that... oops. There we go. Now I can quit my game.
Oh, right. He mentioned that Sony like co-published it and put their marketing weight behind it in the US.
Final Fantasy? Yeah.
Final Fantasy
Oh,
VII.
Legend of Dragoon.
No, Final Fantasy
Yeah,
VII.
but I think Legend of Dragoon
well,
had
maybe
a bunch of...
Legend of Dragoon as well, I think.
Yeah.
But
That game was was the marketing campaign behind that was huge. I don't know. I played all of those 16 or 32-bit era
Don't leave us all for the
RPGs.
time being.
Star Ocean 2,
That was my-
Legend of Legaia.
I think the one that broke me was Unlimited. Was it Unlimited Saga? Which one was Saga Frontier? Sorry,
Saga Frontier. Yeah, those are two very different games.
Yeah, Saga Frontier is where I like punched out of JRPGs more or less forever. I still played Final Fantasy games. The last JRPG I put a lot of time
Find anything,
into.
Jill?
Nothing.
Final Fantasy X I played a lot of, and then Persona 3 Fez, whatever. I put a fair amount of time into that game.
How much time did you just spend
I
just
don't
playing
know what's
Fez?
going on.
Well,
15, 20 hours?
let's search for him separately.
Right,
Check
which
the
is not
diagram again.
altogether that much time, but
Okay. I'll try the door.
that's like more than half a playthrough of Chrono Trigger.
This
So,
mansion
yeah.
is gigantic.
This mansion
We
is
could get in
gigantic.
trouble if we
Alright.
get lost.
I made it back.
We should start from the first floor.
With a gun
okay?
that you can
Now I have a
draw.
gun that I can
Jill,
use.
here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master
Speaking of
of
games that
take it
started,
with you.
weird trends, this game, we should bring it back.
Maybe
This
I'll-
game,
Yeah, we should talk about Resident
mean-
Evil now that I'm caught back up to where we were when we stopped talking about Resident Evil, basically.
Listen,
yeah, so
if something
before
happens,
this, Alone in the
let's meet
Dark
in the
on
hall.
PCs and the 3DO.
Have you ever played like
But-
OG Alone in the
this time
Dark?
I'll be there.
Yeah, I did. I played it on a friend of mine had a 3DO when we were
Okay.
kids, and I played it on his 3DO, and that game is fucking terrible.
Yeah, you can appreciate it for like trying to do something different, but it's really not a very good game, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Get locked in
it's-
a mansion and it's ugly as fuck, and you have to solve a bunch of not great puzzles, and
Yeah. That's right. False Logic wrote about it for one of the 31 Days of Horror, which are unfortunately not currently up and available to read. But we do. Eric did save an archive of everything that was on the site before we sort of took it down or
found
whatever.
some
So
ink ribbons. I guess I'll take those.
So-
I don't know.
yeah, I don't. That game, that whole series, I think, and the first one turned me off of it.
Yeah, I
He
never
says
played.
Resident Evil rips it off a lot, and I mean that's kind of true, but also
Right.
like Resident Evil like improves on it in every conceivable
Is a
way.
good version of what Alone in the Dark was trying to do. Yeah, I played Alone in the
basically.
Dark after the fact. After I'd played, like, I want to say I played it on PC, in like 02 or 03 or something, and it didn't hold up very well. Like it is like that is to these games what like Elder Scrolls Daggerfall is to like what Morrowind and Oblivion would become. Like it's a rough sketch or rough outline of like this is how this works, but we don't have the technology to really do it right. And then when those later games came along, it really showed, you know, like Alone in the Dark just like technologically isn't sound enough to really, like I said, do what they're trying to do with that.
Yeah, it's so slow,
Right.
and
It's
like,
it's
you
more
know,
of and it's
10
like
frames a second.
closer to an adventure game.
But you have to fight stuff still, like that monster that hops in the window towards the beginning.
Right.
You know, you have to like deal with that.
Man, it is
Thing.
fucking hard to
And
shoot
it's
things in
like-
this version of the game. Holy shit.
You shouldn't even be bothering to try to shoot these dogs in any version. You should just be running out of here.
Really? Oh, I died. Alright, that's it for the stream.
Huh.
'Cause
Did
I
you
didn't
not save again?
I didn't save,
My
so I'm
God.
dead. I almost became a Jill sandwich.
That dog coming through the window. I just recorded.
That's right.
a
Now the
channel
dog's
update.
gone when you come back through if you just run.
No, they walk around
Oh, right.
and they're like easier to avoid.
I thought I did
but
save,
man,
but-
the first time I saw that, I jumped so hard. You know, like I was like, I think I probably let out an audible, like, you know, I vocalized my fright,
don't know
and I
if
was,
it
you know,
saved.
13 years old. But that scared the bejesus out of me. Just because you'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
You know, like no game had done that I'd ever played.
You really weren't expecting it.
Had done that. Yeah.
they have escaped the mansion. This
False
time I
Logic
picked
says,
Chris.
I expect monsters to jump out of every window these days in games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
The dog really got me, and then there's the liquor in the two-sided mirror room in Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
I don't
And Mr.
know
X
how.
comes through the wall in the second playthrough.
Yeah.
Like, you leave a room and you're like, oh, he's gone, and then he just, like, smashes
Well, I'm
through a
sorry.
wall, and I was like, oh my god. But jump scares are easier than, like, a persistent feeling of dread that some games can provide. Dancing Jack Red Madness says hello.
In case
Hi.
of an emergency.
Hello, Jack.
How's it going?
I'm just gonna call you Jack for short because your name is like 24 characters.
Chris?
So.
Take care.
Yeah. There was a Patreon question in this month's channel update Q&A video that I just finished recording about games that scared me and that kind of thing, and I talked quite a bit about Silent Hill 2 is this unmatched atmosphere that,
Right.
Jack Red, please. Sure, we'll go with Jack
We
Red.
go with JR.
But this game was a watershed moment, and the weird thing about it is, kind of like Final Fantasy VII, right? There's not really a reason to go back and play this game, except as sort of a historical curiosity, because the remake is so much better,
Right. And 2 is so much better as well.
and 2 is so much better.
Right.
Yeah. Jack Red says, I remember when my parents pulled me away from the TV playing this. I wonder what. So you weren't just walking around hallways like picking up emblems if that happened. Like you must have been like fighting a zombie or something, and your parents saw that and were like, no. He says honestly both have advantages over each other. I honestly just don't agree with that sentiment. I don't think there's anything that the original PlayStation version does.
Right. Well, I think I would say I don't know, the director's cut. When I played through the remake, I didn't care for the respawning zombies, the redeads, the whole burning the corpses mechanic. Just wasn't.
I like that. I like that.
It was just like this additional bullshit that I had to deal with that I didn't really enjoy very much.
Wesker, chill.
I don't know. I feel like part of Resident Evil has always been picking your fights, and I think that makes you have to pick them even like a little bit more, because if you kill a zombie and can't burn it or blow its head off, you're gonna have to deal with a crimson head later.
Right. Well, I mean, it does incentivize you not to fight at all, really. Because
Until you get the shotgun, at least, because once you can pop their heads,
yeah.
then...
After you've played through 1 or 2 Resident Evil games, chances are you're pretty efficient at juking the zombies. And so there's kind of, in that game in particular, if you were like me by that point, there was just no upside to shooting them at all. It was just super easy to dodge
Right.
them. I mean, there was other more dangerous enemies like the
Well,
hunters or whatever
sometimes
you need
there's
to
like
kill,
several in a room, and there's not a good way to juke around them as much. But yeah, also shotgun shell. Once you get to a point where you have so many shotgun shells that sometimes it's just like to just get them out of the way.
Yeah.
You just use one shotgun shell to explode a zombie head to get them out of your way. False Logic says he's watching The Exorcist tonight.
That's good. That's a good movie.
That's a good movie. I think it's more effective if you're a believer, which I am not. I'm not a believer, but it's still. I mean, I still think it's a scary movie. But
It's okay.
if you are a believer,
Yeah.
it's like chilling. It's a chilling movie. And Jack Red says a good amount of Resident Evil owes itself to Sweet Home on the Famicom.
It's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going, in that respect. And I've actually never really played Sweet Home.
I did.
More
I
than
played
just
a
like the
fan
opening.
translation of it like a long time ago when I first discovered
Yeah.
NES emulators and read an article that was the inspiration for Resident Evil.
Yeah, that fan translation came out in
It's pretty cool.
2000, I want to say.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, I played it a long time ago.
Well, see, we've brought it together. Now we're talking about horror games and JRPGs.
I forget what I gotta do here. Chris is different.
False Logic says it's balls hard.
Sweet
And
Home.
even
Yeah,
and even
I had to
worse
use
at
a
pulling this
guide,
genre
I
off.
think, to get through that. For my part, like I can definitely see, well, like I said, not having to deal with the redeads, it would be the reason I would rather play through probably the director's cut, honestly.
Yeah,
But really,
not the,
if I'm
not
gonna
the
play,
green label director's cut.
yeah, if I'm gonna play an original style Resident Evil game, I'm gonna play 2 probably. That's the one I like
Yeah.
the best. It
Two,
has
two on the N64 is my jam.
It has that has the best balance of
Yes.
it has the best, it just has the best locations and the
Yeah,
best
it does have a
variety
lot
of
of-
places to go and things to explore. I think it also has the best high points in it too, like the alligator fight in the bottom, and the part where William Birkin jumps onto the car, the
Yeah.
tram
elevator
car.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got a really good. I mean, the whole zapping system, which I
Right.
I don't know why they never went back to that because it's so good.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's one of those weird things that or I know you've never played Eternal Darkness, but Eternal Darkness has a really great thing where you rotate through a whole big cast of characters, and
Yeah.
it's like a really cool gameplay mechanic, and they all have little. There's like 4 or 5 different molds, and there's 13 characters that sort of slot into those molds.
Yeah.
Where they sort of play the same, but it was just like a really cool thing, and it's something that nobody else has really messed with too much.
yeah. False Logic says 3 shots to the head to kill a Zed. Fuck, this game is tough. And Eternal Darkness is probably his favorite horror game. I really
Absolutely.
should play that.
Eternal Darkness is great.
Jack Red says he had D2 on Dreamcast and years later found out it's part of a trilogy with similar games and different themes. It's funny you should mention that because on Thursday we're going to play D. So
It's true.
the original D1. Which, by the way, is a really hard game to search for. If you're trying to look up things about that game, it's very hard
If
to
you
do a
type in
search.
D:"the game, you get closer to what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Or Kenji Ino's D.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Steam version is the one we'll be playing as well.
Yeah, I haven't bought it yet, so I don't know if I'm gonna get Steam or GOG, but I assume that they're basically.
Well, GOG just gives you a key. Well, GOG's got you can download it right from GOG, but they also give you a Steam key, don't they?
No, Humble Bundle gives you
no?
Steam keys. Good Old Games
Oh,
has
yeah.
its own thing that you use to download games. You can either download it right from the website, or they have a loader that's kind of similar to Steam.
Yeah.
That
I
tracks
thought I
all your
bought something
games.
for. I mean, it's been a long time since I bought anything from GOG, but I swear I bought something and I got,
Got
a
a Steam
Steam
key.
activation.
If you bought something new, maybe
Maybe.
you might have gotten a code.
Oh yeah, there might have been a sale on something that was like newish, and that was. Jack Red says, "Did you hear why he went exclusive for Sega following D?" I have heard that story, but I think we're gonna save that to talk about on Thursday.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Kenji Ino and how weird he is, and how yes, it is pronounced Ino, not Eno, on Thursday.
Try to put
Earth.
the away.
Will you take the Earth chemical?
Yeah. I really don't, man. I recognize all these areas, but I don't remember what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing next. Just wandering around looking for keys. Does Chris have the
That's
lighter?
pretty
Does he
much-
start with the lighter? Can I go into the
In the remake, he starts with it, but no, you have to find it. It's in one of the bedrooms, I believe, on like a shelf. But you don't need the chemical right now. I know that.
Yeah, I put that away. I don't need the emblem.
Yeah,
either,
I saw
don't
that.
think.
Not
That
yet.
way,
No.
too.
Jack Red says in Resident Evil Gaiden, there are so many different color herbs, it's sickening, and you would think you're high. I never played that game because I heard it's really bad. So I've never ventured into the world of
Why is
Resident Evil
this not hitting
Gaiden.
that guy?
Although apparently in Resident Evil Gaiden, that's the only co-starring appearance of Barry and Leon, which is a weird pairing sort of to begin with.
Bring it. Roar. This is Resident Evil 1.
This
You guys
game
can't
is
climb
kind of
stairs.
janky.
Oh, but I can't shoot them either, I guess. Well, we've reached an impasse.
I thought you could. I thought you could, like,
know,
when the
I'm not-
hunters show up, I thought you could pick them off from down there. I don't know. It's hard, though, because you can't... It doesn't lock onto
Yeah,
them, so
it's
you're maybe
true.
just because you're
I
aiming...
might just be missing.
weird. Right. Yeah, I don't, this is a game that whenever I play one of these, I always replay it without going back to a guide because I kind of enjoy the feeling of, like, just like you said, walking around and
The fuck am I supposed to do? So like I
Yeah.
said, I don't know. I don't know if I ever finished this like myself, but I had a friend that was obsessed with these games, and so I like he played a bunch of games that even I never would have touched. Like I'd go over to his house or whatever, and he would have like that was where I played the Alone in the Dark sequel for the PlayStation. Oh, and that's where I played Overblood and Galarians and a bunch of other sort of trash that really nobody should have been subjected to.
I feel like I've heard some
Helmet.
people tell me that Galarians is good.
Okay, Galarians is okay. Overblood is trash. Have you ever played?
It's got
Have you
a
ever
great
played?
name, though.
Have you ever played Overblood?
I have not played Overblood.
Is it-
Or maybe I did back in the day, and it was so not memorable that I don't.
There's a cool robot in Overblood. Overblood is like a weird sci-fi story that plays like
Wait,
a survival
maybe I-
horror game and has a bunch of NPCs and stuff that you can talk to.
Maybe I have played that. Is that the one that's kind of like a corridor shooter, like with a robot? Maybe are you in a robot in that game or no?
You're not in a robot. There just is a robot.
Okay. No, I'm thinking of some. What's like a super early PlayStation game where you're like in a robot, like a mech thing,
I don't know.
and it's like a trashy sci-fi.
Blast Chamber.
No, earlier. Wait, I'm talking about like a launch era. Now I'm gonna have to find it
I don't know. All right,
because it's
I'm
gonna
gonna
drive
wrap
me
this
nuts
up pretty
into
soon
my-
because I don't know what I'm supposed to do and run low on ammo because that's Resident Evil.
Let's see. Jack Red says that apparently the Resident Evil prototype for Game Boy Color is better than Resident Evil 2 on the Gamecom.
Okay, I believe it.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you? Is there decent Gamecom emulation? Can I play the Resident Evil 2 Gamecom
I think so.
version?
I think there is.
Can I stream that sometime? Because that would definitely be a thing that I should do. All right, Joe. You and we've played all of the Resident Evil games.
Kilik the DNA Imperative is the game I was thinking of, but
Great. I've never even heard. Oh, no, I've heard that name, but I don't think I ever played that game.
it was bad.
Okay.
It sounds like in similar ways to Overblood. It was bad.
I'm trying to think of some of the other Resident Evil style games that I played, but for me it was
Stinger.
like so last night I downloaded and I found that they've made some pretty good inroads into Dreamcast emulation.
I mean, it
And
runs on Windows CE, so it should be really easy to emulate. a
Yeah, it
Dreamcast.
has been a thing for whatever reason. Dreamcast and Saturn emulation has not been great. And so
Well,
anyway,
Saturn emulation
there was a
makes sense.
kind of working Dreamcast emulator, and I got Illbleed working last night, so it was
Oh,
it was still a little stuttery, but Illbleed's a thing that
Although,
I would
yeah,
enjoy
now that you
revisiting.
mention it, I had to use a Dreamcast emulator to cap my old video cable for my Dreamcast died when I was making the Dynamite Cop video last
Yeah.
December. And so I had to use an emulator. Now that you mention it, the Dreamcast emulator I used ran like absolute garbage.
Yeah, so there's a newer one that's just kind of sort of come out in the last couple of years, and apparently that one's pretty good. Illbleed ran totally fine. I tried to play Crazy Taxi, and it was not a good experience.
So you didn't make some crazy money.
I played one round, and it was just a little glitchy in a way that made it not fun.
But did the Offspring play without a
Yeah. Yeah. They played.
Okay.
I listened to the
cool.
music.
Yeah.
Zombie.
Jack Red says Silent Hill is dead to him now.
Yeah. Silent Hill
I
1,
mean-
playing the Silent Hill 1 demo was a fucking
Wow.
revelation to me.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah, yeah.
there's that long tracking shot. It's right near the beginning of the game. It's part of the dream sequence, actually. Oh man, some good music in this game. There's that long
Yes.
tracking shot where you're walking down the alleyway, and it's like the camera is
Yeah.
like a thing, like skittering up the building that comes to rest in the corner as you go like around a 90-degree bend, and then comes back down and follows you. And like just like that moment was like it revolutionized the way that I thought about video game cameras. I mean,
Yeah.
in some cases that was just because video game cameras in the 64/32-bit era were just the thing that you struggled with constantly. Like the best case scenario was you didn't have to think about it too hard. But most games, even decent ones like Mario 64 or whatever, could be really fucking frustrating to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like Shattered Memories, I still haven't played that either. Somewhat embarrassingly.
Goddamn, Joe!
but,
You like horror games,
yeah.
and you haven't played Eternal Darkness or Silent Hill Shattered Memories.
Yeah, but that's
Those are
not a
those are like
very-
2 of the 5 best horror games.
I need to fix that, I guess. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people said that Shattered Memories was super good, and that's like a relatively recent Silent Hill game.
It's true.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's probably like 7 years old
Relatively
now,
recent.
right?
It's like 8 years old now,
Yeah.
but how many Silent Hill games have there been since? If you don't count the
Quite a
pachinko
few.
machine, the
There
pachinko
was-
machine, which False Logic says is the best Silent Hill.
There was Homecoming for the.
That was after Shattered Memories.
I think they might have been around the same time because that's a 360 game that was thoroughly mediocre. And then there was 5, right? And what else? There's been. I feel
No,
like
is
there's
the
been at
Silent Hill
least-
pachinko machine the erotic violence one, or is that the Castlevania
Now I have to
pachinko
look.
machine?
Silent Hill franchise, because I stopped. The last one I played to completion was Homecoming, which was the fucking. That was the 360 one that should have been good because it was about a soldier coming home from, like the war in Afghanistan or whatever, who is suffering from PTSD and trying to find his origins. Homecoming, Downpour, and Book of Memories were the other 2.
All of those have come out since Shattered Memories.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna look at that. I want to get the timeline.
They just kept fucking
Shattered
that chicken,
Memories was
didn't they?
09. Homecoming was also 09 or 2008. So Homecomings was just a little bit before Shattered Memories. And then Origins was 2007. Book of Memories was 2012. Downpour was 2012. So anyway,
All right.
Silent
And,
Hill 2,
a fr-
Silent Hill Shattered Memories. I mean, I'm almost there, right? I've almost got my top 5 horror games. Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil 2, Silent Hill Shattered Memories, Eternal Darkness.
We're not counting like Castlevania games as horror games.
No, I'm
right?
talking about those games are only horror games for the purpose of this feature because I enjoy playing them. But
Right.
those are platformers. Like their intention is not to scare you. It's just that's
Right.
the aesthetic that they've chosen. Sweet Home and Friday the 13th, honestly, are the only 2 like super early. And maybe that what's the one where you're just the pair of eyes for the
Haunted House.
yeah, Haunted House. Those 3 games would be like, I would buy those if you wanted to tell me that those were actual horror games, but the rest of those I would not accept.
I'm gonna tell you something, and I'll be talking about it in greater depth on Friday when I release the new episode of Same Name Different Game. But Friday the 13th for the NES is not that bad.
It's really bad. Stop it.
I'm serious. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's really obtuse.
It's kind of
but
scary.
once
It's kind of
you-
scary, but it's really bad too. It's also really bad.
There's some things about it that are bad, but like I'm just gonna put it this way: for the amount of hate that it gets, for the amount of shit people pour on that game, it's not that bad.
Okay, it's like a solid 4 out of 10.
I'd say it's like a solid 5 or 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Like it's playable, and like
This-
the biggest problem is like the game doesn't tell you anything. But
Right.
if you like look up a few things about like how do the game systems actually work, like once you know that stuff, it's really not that bad. Super short, but
true.
it's it's
Unless you're
fine.
trying to beat it yourself, in which case it takes for fucking ever because
Right.
nothing makes any sense.
Right. Jack Red says he recently found out about Haunting starring Poltergeist on the Genesis. That is actually a really fun game. It's not a horror game. It's not scary, but it's super fun.
Yeah.
You play as a ghost and you get to haunt a house, and it's really fun.
To kill this dude. So all right. So you do. I did my top 5. You do your top 5 actual horror games.
Top 5 actual horror
Yeah,
games.
or games that are actually kind of scary.
Right. I would say like Resident Evil 2,
Okay.
the Resident Evil remake,
All
Silent
right.
Hill 2.
Mm-hmm. God damn, Silent Hill 2 is so fucking good.
Like maybe like D might work its way in there because it's just so fucking weird, and there's like nothing else like it,
Yeah.
you know. But I don't know.
Just barely missing my list is Anatomy, which was that 45-minute indie game that I played last year on the stream.
Yeah,
You should. It's like $3. You should buy it and play it.
yeah. Oh,
light.
Lone Survivor.
Lone
Did a
Survivor
bit of
is
a
very
number
good,
on me.
too. Yeah. Yep.
I didn't really like. I didn't love the ending, but the journey to get there was pretty fucking tense.
I really appreciated. I really liked the story of that game, but the plot wasn't so good. If that makes any sense. Like I really like as a game that's about survivor guilt and like this person sort of like returning to. Oh God, I forgot about this room.
Which is also what Silent Hill 2 is about, right?
Kind of.
Like-
I mean, for different reasons, though, right? Like,
Well, yes and no. The thing about Silent Hill 2, are we just going to spoil it? Like, nobody here has
that
not
game's
seen Silent
like
Hill 2.
15 years old.
Right. So, okay. Like, people are always like, he murdered his wife. And I'm like, he didn't murder his wife.
Right.
He
Well, it depends on
helped
which
her
ending
commit
you get.
assisted suicide.
Right. It depends on which ending you get, but yeah, he
I
killed
guess,
her.
but he killed her, right? But he killed her because she was like terminally ill and wanted to die. You know, again, depending on which ending you get, I guess. But you know, so I think that there is a definite element of that. But that's not even the thing that's creepy about that game. That game just has an understanding of
Right.
you know how to create again this atmosphere where it like wanders into almost Lynchian territory at the end when you're in the hotel and you start opening doors and the door opens somewhere that isn't where the door should open to, you know. But it's like, man, that game is so good.
The scariest part in that game is the hole when you're in the historical society and you end up in the
Yes.
prison.
Yes.
I had to stop. I put that game down for like 2 months when I got to that because it freaked me out so bad. Man, I'm just going all over the place.
first-
I know I'm like accomplishing nothing, but I'm seeing quite a bit of the mansion here. So I think I should
first,
put an end to this pretty soon.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Lone Survivor, that was really good. Actually, there's a game that came out for. Oh, get off me, you jerk! I think is this where Rebecca is? Is she here?
Yeah,
now?
she's down in that save room. Jack Red says he's curious out of all the endings to Silent Hill 2, which one do you believe to be the canon one and why? I think In Water
Whoa!
seems to be the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh no.
But
sorry.
you know, I think that's the one that Konami has said is canon. But I mean, at this point, who cares what they have to say?
Yes, I'm Rebecca.
But that's the one that
Rebecca
makes sense
Chambers.
to me, and that's the one I got on my
Just
first
joined the
playthrough.
Stars Bravo
I don't
team
remember.
last
It
month.
doesn't really.
Well,
The dog
I'm
ending
really
is the
sorry.
canon ending.
The dog, yes, the dog, the corgi controlling everything from the spaceship or whatever.
I'm Chris
The-
Redfield from the Alpha
the
Team.
canon ending. I will, also say, as much as it annoys me now because it's spun totally out of control. The first time I played the first 5 Nights at Freddy's, I knew basically nothing about it.
Yeah.
and turned off all the lights and everything and played that. That's a pretty tense fucking experience if you
Yeah.
don't know what you're getting into.
Yes, sir.
And of course, like now it's just like there's like 10 sequels and whatever. It's just like
All right, I got
everybody's sort of over it, but
Yeah, I never actually played one of
What's
those
wrong with the engine?
because
It
they're
was
just
such
like
a
jump
short
scares,
flight.
and jump scares don't really work so much on me these days.
they're jump scares. But
I've seen the greatest jump scare of all time, which is in
the dog coming through the window. And
Nope.
this?
It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 when Leatherface comes out of the record archive, and when Chop Top is giving his speech to what's her face.
Yeah.
That's the scariest jump
Stretch.
scare. Yeah. But all right, before I shut this down, let's rank the Resident Evil games.
Oh boy. Should I go first, or do you want to?
Yeah, well, let's do it together. Let's suss this out.
Okay.
We'll make a quick list here.
I mean, 2 or 4 is I think probably the top spot.
Well, what should I do now?
You know,
What should I have
You'll
Rebecca
to
do?
Search for the other members.
you should make her stay here.
Okay.
Because things get weird if she comes with you, it makes the game a little bit harder.
Sir. I'll
Um,
do my best. I have to prepare something.
So
So-
I'm gonna say 2 and then 4. But if you like shooting things and having fun, 4 is a better game.
Right. I think I would say 4 and then 2, honestly, just because even though you're right, 4 isn't scary.
Right.
Really, the opening when you get to the village and all that part is scary, and then it's never really scary again after
Yeah.
that.
There's some annoying stuff in 4. Like there's that part where you have to snipe the dudes that are trying to get to Ashley in the
And the
castle.
part on the boat where you have to throw
Yeah.
the harpoons at the monster in the lake, and yeah, there's some stuff like that. But I don't know, that's the Leon, the first 2 Leon installments.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 6 is a piece of shit though.
Resident Evil 6 is at the bottom of the list. For me,
We're
I
just talking
actually
about like
think
the main series, right? We're not talking about fucking.
Well, I mean, if you want to
Survivor
throw
and-
Resident Evil 0 in there or whatever, I don't give a shit. But
Resident Evil 0 is right above Resident Evil 6.
so for me, I would go Resident Evil 5 co-op comes next. In fact, because playing that
think the
game
remake-
co-op is just is like the most fun you can have in a Resident Evil game, action wise. And then
up there.
and then for me, probably the Resident Evil remake, and then like 3 and Code Veronica.
See, I think I would actually put 7 above.
Yeah, I was just trying to
Code
figure out where
Veronica.
I was just trying to figure out where 7 probably goes actually above. I'll put 7 behind 5, but above 3 in Code Veronica.
Well, wait. So hang on. I would
So
say
mine goes 2, 4, 5, 7, 3 Code Veronica, and then like 0, and then like
6.
then like having my dick amputated, and then 6.
I think I would say like 4, 2, remake, 5 co-op, 7, and then like I don't know, Code Veronica, and I never played 3, which I should again fix. And like 0 and 6 are all like way at the bottom, and like 5 single player is towards the bottom.
Yeah, it's amazing how different 5 is, whether you play it co-op or single player.
Jack Red asked what about Revelations? I played the first Revelations on 3DS. I bought a Circle Pad Pro just to play Resident Evil Revelations, and I actually couldn't finish it because that bullshit where you have to take out that scanning tool and scan everything in the room to look for items was such an amazing amount of bullshit.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it, and I was just like, I'm done with this
I
fucking
guess
game.
so. Like one director's cut would be in the Code Veronica
Yeah.
3 tier for me, probably.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I played any of the other. I really want to play Resident Evil. I didn't play the first Revelations, but the second one looks really cool and has a bunch of cool,
Yeah, the second
like,
one.
local co-op stuff, like asymmetrical. in a way that looked kind of fun, and
that does look fun.
that game is much more similar to like the Resident Evil 4 playstyle. It's basically just that.
And you don't have to pull out a separate tool to scan.
Yeah, it's
fucking
like a
bullshit to find
As
ammo.
I understand it, it's like a less good version of Resident Evil 5, which is really what I wanted from 6, honestly. And instead, what I got was a really crappy
It's a less
third.
good version of 5.
Yeah, no, but 6 is like a really shitty third-person action game, which is somewhat different than what I'm looking for from Resident Evil. Anyway, that's Resident Evil 1. If you want to play this, you should definitely play the director's cut. Just because the auto aiming makes it so much more easy to deal with stuff. Especially like navigating the mansion isn't too bad, but when you start to fight the hunters and the big snake and the spiders and some of the other things that move really fast, like not having auto aim is just really, really difficult.
Jack Red, before we go, says, how do you feel about the live-action Resident Evil and Silent Hill movies? They're hot shit garbage. The first Silent Hill movie, I guess, isn't, like, unwatchably bad, but, like, the rest of them are shit.
I haven't seen any except for the first one, but it's okay. It's not horrible. And the Resident Evil movies, I mean, they're, like, trashy fun. Like, that's what they're meant to be. I've seen, like, 2 or 3 of those, but they're all, like, a big mash of... Like I don't really remember. I think the first one's the one with the laser dodging, right? I don't remember any of them. Yeah, they're whatever. I just don't like the modern horror movie aesthetic very much. So like those movies don't appeal to me that much. If they were of a similar quality level, but they looked more like 80s horror movies, then I would probably be way into them. Anyway,
did you see the one about the VCR board game? No, I can't remember what it's called. It came out last year. It was pretty fun.
Did you see that there's a Kickstarter for a Resident Evil 2 board game?
No, but that sounds like it would be fun.
Yeah, I didn't. I just saw that. I don't. It might be over already. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna end this stream now.
Beyond the Gates. That's a movie you should watch if you're into that 80s horror aesthetic. It's about a haunted VHS board game.
All right. I don't know what I'm playing tomorrow. Or I do. I do know what I'm playing tomorrow because I'm playing the Genesis game tomorrow.
Yeah. We're playing D. Probably Overwatch. Yeah, Thursday we're playing D.
And then, I don't know, beyond that. I might play some Claire on Friday night, or The Last Door, because I haven't really done anything with PC stuff that I haven't played, but Claire is a game that seems kind of similar to Lone Survivor. Came out a couple years ago. It's like a second. I think it has less combat even than Lone Survivor. It's more of a traditional 2D adventure game, but that looks kind of interesting. And then there's the Last Door series, which is also a series of 2D adventure games with a horror setting. So, anyway, that's it. Goodbye.
All right. Well, we'll be around. Bye.
Resident Evil.